Okay, adding and subtracting still, and more on that shortcut. Okay, let's take a look at our first problem. 11/42 minus 9/35. I'm going, oh my, those numbers are kind of big in the denominator, but that's okay. So we know what to do. We got to find that LCD, and we know how to do it. We take our denominators and we tear them apart that they're made of. 42, we would get 2 times 3 times 7, and 35 would be 5 times 7. So our LCD is going to equal 2 times 3 times 5 times 7. Okay, now this time I'm going to try to be a little bit neater so I don't mess up our screen. Oh, and what does that equal? Let's see, that would be 110. So we know that our denominator in both cases needs to be 210. Okay, so this is where I gotta do it. This is where this information that we worked hard to get is going to help us over and over and over. So we'll see, we want to see what we had to do to go from 42 to our LCD, which is here. And if you look at those two, what's the difference between them? I see a 2 and a 3 and a 7 in 42, but in the LCD I see a 2, a 3, and a 5 and a 7. So that tells us that we have to multiply 42 times 5. So I'm going to say, okay, we multiplied 42 times 5, and the reason we have to know that is because we have to know what to do to the numerator, because we have to do exactly the same in the top as we did in the bottom. And when we multiply that out, we would get 55. Okay, next, let's go purple here. Here's 35, and get rid of that. Down here again, here is our LCD. In 35, I see a 5 times a 7. Down here in our LCD, there's the 5 times the 7. The difference between those two is that 2 times 3. And that's 6, so that tells us we had to multiply 35 times 6 to get 210. And again, the reason we want to know that is because we need to know what we have to do to the 9. Got to do the same thing to both of those. So we know that that's going to be a 6, and 9 times 6 is 54, and our answer is going to have that same denominator. To get the numerator, you just subtract 55 minus 54, not too difficult, 1 over 210, and woohoo, we don't even have to check, because when you get 1 over something there, we know that there's nothing we can cancel there. So let's try one more example, and it's a little bit simpler. Ooh, check this out. The only difference in this problem and the ones we've been doing is that the fractions are just written differently. So if we feel more comfortable, let me go ahead and I'm just going to take this problem, 7/24 plus 7/16 plus 7/12. It's written vertically. I'm just going to write it horizontally. So I'll rewrite this 7/16 plus 7/12. And the reason I like to do that is just because we've been doing it that way all along. So I just want to see how well I can get that erased. Okay, we know what to do. We are over here ending our favorite little LCD. 24, 2 times 2 times 3. 16 is 2 times 2 times 2, and 12 over in 2's this time. So what's your LCD? What are you going to get? Okay, I hope you said 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, and that equals 48 when you multiply it all out. So we go back over here. We know what these fractions are going to become in the denominator. Okay, so many of you can already recognize, I suspect, you know how to go from 24 to 8. You know that that's times 2. So let's just take a look, though, over here in this box that we worked hard to get and make sure that that makes sense to us. Here's 24. Here's our LCD. What's the difference between the two? Well, the LCD has an extra 2, so that tells us we had to multiply 24 times 2. So we multiply 7 times the 2, and we get 14. And when we take a look at the other ones, we will find here's 16. Here's our LCD. The difference between the two is the 3. So that means 16 times 3 gives us 48, and that tells us what to do to the 7 to give us 21. And finally, let me use my fancy eraser here. 12, there's 12, and there's our 48, and I see the 12 right there. The difference between the two is that 2 times 2, which equals 4. So this 12 times 4 gives us 40, and that tells us what to do with the 7, and we would get 28. So when we add all of those up, it looks like we get 36 and 28, 54, 48s. No, I didn't do that correctly. Let me erase that. 35 and 28 is going to give us, I'm going to have to just do this side because I'm not trusting myself here now. 35 and 28, that 35 comes from the 14 and the 21. So that would give us 63. So we get 63 over 48. Okay, we know what happens next. Let's tear those guys apart, see if anything can be canceled. The good news is we've already got 48. We know what that is torn apart. Times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, and 63 would be 3 times 3 times, so a little bit that looks like it can cancel just one of these 3's and that 3, and our looks like final answer then would be 3 times 7 is 21, and downstairs 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16, and if we've done all the canceling up here, we know that that is simplified. Okay, I think that's good. And I will see you, I think that's it for adding and subtracting fractions. We'll see you in the next section.